Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Welcome to Nikola Learns Chess with one and only international master Anna Rudolf. That's very good
Welcome,
to see you
everyone.
guys. Hi Anna.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you are doing well because that's the most important, Nicola. That your elbow is fine and you're gonna have your surgery tomorrow.
Yeah, well, just before we just a quick shout out to Adriana Nikolova who gave us sent us a big raid a couple of minutes ago. Adriana, it's very good to see you. Thank you for the raid. It's very good to see you. And yeah, the message of the story with regards to my elbow is it's not a good idea to try to catch a falling washing machine with one arm. So, uh,
Sounds really
anyway.
painful.
Oh, Anna, thank you for the host. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I also would have rated if
Yeah,
I could have.
yeah. And I noticed that Team Anna, as it's customary and traditional, has beaten Team Bottas yet again. Hey, Lila, it's very good to see you. Thank you. And thank you, Hedgehog, for the 4 months sub. That's very nice of you. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I don't.
Thank you,
Honestly, I
Nicola, for
don't
the
know why.
congratulations there.
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
Oh
Why
no,
is
no,
Anna?
I was just really happy about the match because this time it wasn't that clear. Normally we win with like a large margin. This was a nail biter, and I was very worried.
Well, I watched and I think it could have finished 2 games early if there was if one of our players didn't flag when he had I think something like 7 pieces up. So anyway,
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. It was really unfortunate. Although we were very lucky in the first game because that was the other way around. We were about to be mated. It was mate in two on the
yeah.
board, and we won on time when the opponent was giving mate in two.
And I have an admission to make. Given the past history, I may have to play on Team Bottas next time, just so it's at least competitive.
You need to help them. You mean they do need help? They do need help.
I mean, the score is something like 20-7 or 22-7. So anyway. Um, but interesting piece of it, and hey, Dirk, it's very good to see you. And it's Gilbert Green. It's a Gilbert Green background. Lila has this mainstay of her stream that's very green, like your background. So
Oh,
um, interesting thing is that it may have to do with the pressure. I think Alexander is very competitive, which we all love. And for the record, I'm as big a fan. Oh, and we got the hype train. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Frank, for the sub, and thank you, Anna, for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. So it might be just it might be too much pressure, to be honest with you.
could be,
Yeah,
could be. And once my team started winning lots of matches, it becomes even more like a that to me it happened last year that at some point we started well, my team started well last year, and then the second half of the year was all about how many points is the lead of Alex. So we just at some point declared Alex as the winner
yeah.
of the 2019 sub battles. But ever since it's a new season, the tomatoes are on fire.
Oh, thank you, Frank, for gifting the sub, and oh my God, thank you to Olon for the 3 gifted sub. That's very greatly appreciated, and thank you, Dirkie, to giving the sub to Regant 001. Anyway, for the record, as Anna, as everybody on this channel know, I'm a huge fan of Alexander. Alexander and Andrea are both dear friends of mine. We had a very fun match on Sunday. It was very friendly. We had mutual respect from not just Alexander and Andrea, but also from Papa Bottas. So I really hope on Sunday, that underdogs will triumph. And in this case, this is Team Bottas. So anyway, I'm sorry I
I
have to say
accept that.
that.
And the match was brilliant, by the way.
Thank
I
you.
watched most of the VOD, and it was just really good content, entertainment. I loved the appearance of Papa Botes and everything
Yeah,
he said. It was a really wholesome
sure.
stream.
And the quality of blunders was also exceptional. So, oh, and thank you, thank you, Ulon, for another gifted sub. Thank you. All right, so we for the record and for everybody's sake, I'm having a surgery tomorrow to repair a tendon in my left elbow. It's a minor surgery, lasts an hour. I'll be up and running. I am still going to have my match with Kuridze on Sunday. But you will probably see me in the cast. I'm not in pain. It's just mostly annoyance, and American healthcare system is in need of a major overhaul, as in deserves to be blown up and rebuilt from scratch. And feel free to quote me. I think that's not exactly an unpopular and unusual opinion. But let me put it this way: it's scheduled, it's happening, and I'm looking forward to having my arm back the way it was. In the meantime, I was actually really looking forward to some torture tonight, and as you know, I'm slightly masochistic, and therefore I'm looking forward to see what Anna has prepared.
Well, I'm hoping to deliver. I'm hoping to deliver once again a really complex game. I've chosen a player from the recently started Legends tournament. I thought that I'm not going to pick up a game from the event because I thought, what if Nikola has seen it by any chance, or a position, or someone from the viewers? So I didn't want it to be a game from the event, but I wanted it to be by one of the players from the event. And I ended up choosing the one player that surprised me the most yesterday. He won his match against Dingley Ran. And if I say this, I wonder how many of you guys know, the viewers, who I'm talking about. But he beat the current world number 3, and he was world number 3 in 1990. So a few years ago. Also the challenger of the World Championship title in 2012 against Vishenand. He played in that match very successful, actually. It was a 6-6, but he lost on tie breaks against Vishenand. That's how Vishy kept his crown. And we are talking about Boris Gelfand.
Okay.
Very, very good job, chat, as well. I knew that Nikola knows it, but I was wondering how many of the viewers.
Well, you gave us as many clues. I have to admit, I didn't get a chance to watch Legends tournament for a couple of reasons. First, my favorite commentator was not commentating. That's number one. And number two is yours truly was spending quite a lot of time lying prone into various magnetic resonance imaging machine and in medical equipment. I'll spare you the details. So I really didn't get much time. I'm looking actually forward to this weekend to catch up with some WODs and a few things. So.
Dirkia in the chat. Yes, I quit commentating.
Dirkia, actually, I have a suggestion. Lila and I are looking for a commentator for our match on Sunday. If you're up for commentating, I would be quite honored for you to commentate. And I'm quite serious. So, and hashtag my arm is.
I would be thrilled.
Sorry, and yes, my arm is fine. I'm having surgery tomorrow. I'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And I keep interrupting Anna tonight. Sorry about that. I'm actually excited to go back to some chess.
No worries at all. But yes. I'm looking forward to your match on Sunday and a possible Dirkia commentary.
Yeah, there we go. So we have a Gelfand game, and let me see if I can guess who is the opponent. Let's see.
Actually, it will be difficult to guess because it's not one of the classic games. It's not one of. It's not an opponent of his generation.
Okay.
But it's a player we have talked about because of the matches that Open Field Media sponsored.
So it was a participant in one of OFN matches?
Yes.
Okay, that narrows it down. I'm pretty sure it's not. Actually, Kamsky and Gelfand has a long history of liking each other and playing together. So, hey, thank you, Logistan, for the follow, and JB McCool, thank you for the bits. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, and Quank Pie and Vacuously Unvexed. All right, so it's I can read Anna's face at this time. It's obviously not Gata, so it can be Artemiev. It's probably not Artemiev. It can be Korobov. Anyway, you can tell me. I'm not.
Yeah, it was gonna be difficult to guess, but his opponent is Shahriar Mamedyarov.
Oh, Mamedyarov. I should have guessed. Okay, that's fine. Good.
And we're gonna flip the board because we're gonna be playing with the black pieces mainly, but not always.
Okay, yeah. All right. And Gelfand is black?
Yes, and this is a game from one of the town memorials in 2008, so not a
Okay.
recent game, but a very complex one. I was happy when I saw this. This is a really messy game.
Yeah. That thank you for the Reagan for redeeming hydrate, and I just realized that I actually don't have water with me. So I'm gonna change that in a few minutes. So okay, thank you. All right, so okay, very good. Something I wouldn't be caught dead playing, but it's time to learn a new opening, I guess. All right,
Yes, I knew that unfortunately this is not part of your opening repertoire.
that's fine.
Neither is part of my repertoire, but it leads to such messy positions
Okay,
that it's good for analysis. It's good for analysis. Black usually wins the pawn in this line of the anti-Moscow semi-Slav, so the c4 pawn is taken and oftentimes kept. But white does get the center for it, more activity. The black king, it's always a question: will we see that black king castling at all? Will it be safe? So this is a very complex variation, and therefore a
okay,
good start for us.
okay.
Have
Just
you
a
seen any games with this structure? I'm just curious.
um, yes. I have I'm pretty familiar. I mean, Semislav has been, and for Puccino, thank you for the stream. And just a quick shout out to my dear friend Art Vega and also my dear friend Squarely. Thank you guys for joining us. Well, here is a quick question. I normally don't play this, and this structure appears to be a little bit on the jumbled side. But a pawn is a pawn, as Anna says, free stuffs.
Yes,
Therefore, it's you know, all right.
it is free stuff. Yes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would play it. I tried studying this. I did try. Sopico made a video series on the triangle Slavs. I was looking at some of those lines, not these really massive ones, but just the general triangle Slav setup. But I
Okay,
ended up thinking, no, this is
okay.
even for me. It's a bit too too sharp. But I guess those who study it well enough, they can be more confident that they will not get into trouble. I think these are just very difficult to play by intuition. So black has to study a lot. You cannot just
Yeah.
wing it.
Yeah, and Anna, this is actually a great position that I actually like to play against as
Hmm.
white. So
Yeah.
it's actually useful for me to do this. So, and obviously, this is very aggressive on both sides and probably extra sharp. Where is Black King gonna go? It's
Hmm.
that's like a first question. So okay,
Yeah.
all right,
And we are lucky to have. Normally, I pick games, and I just base my decision on wanting to find a complex game with lots
oh
of
yeah,
insightful and instructive moments. This time, I used the same criteria when finding the game. But once I chose the game, I noticed that I also could find an annotated version of that game by Gelfand. So we're gonna be looking
all
at
right,
some of the annotations of Gelfand about this game and some
all
of
right,
the insights from Gelfand. And here White played e5, to which Gelfand said in his annotation, a rare plan, which however was played in some memorable games nowadays meaning 2008. So theory, well, 10 years ago, over 10 years. Nowadays, the white mostly tries to attack with knight on e5, and that's what I have mostly seen, that white keeps the e5 square for pieces instead of pushing the pawn. So knight to e5 is a more um, traditional way nowadays to play this opening. Knight
okay,
e5 or bishop b2, those are the two main lines, and that's what Gaffin says, that even over 10 years ago, e5 was a rare plan. But Mamedyarov is known for liking uh, the offbeaten track, sometimes going for sidelines, just unique ideas. So he went for e5. Where would you go with the knight? Quick question.
That's actually not. That's as I looked, there is an obvious answer and not so obvious answer. Obvious answer is to go on d5. It appears to be a clear thing. And Anna, I'm just going to go grab some water because
Yeah,
I
you
owe
should.
hydration and actually do need
Yes.
to hydrate. So just 30 seconds.
Yes. In the meantime, I was also gonna show you guys. Well, I can't show it. I can't share my screen, but I was gonna read out this structure. What Wikipedia says about it may not be the best source for general chess knowledge, but I think it's useful for like the very basics. And about this line of the semi-Slav, what you can find in terms of general plans and ideas. Let me find that paragraph. I know I saw it somewhere on this Wikipedia page. Anti-Moscow variation. So it says White has a number of typical plans to attack the black position all over the board. On the king side, White can consider a move like h2, h4. So we are talking about the position without e5 being pushed. h4 is an idea in some of the positions, possibly further weakening black's king side pawn structure. In the center, White often plays knight to e5, so that's what Gaffin was also saying, that e5 is rare. It's more common to place a knight on e5 and not the pawn. Knight e5 and open up the d1 h5 diagonal for the white bishop and queen, as well as look for opportunities to break through with d4 to d5. So this pawn break sometimes can be possible. Those are some of the main ideas here for white. It is worth mentioning that pushing the e pawn to e5 is often not a good idea. This is what Wikipedia says about Mamajero's move, although it's possible, of course, to play e5, since it
So,
blocks the white minor pieces. Those minor pieces. On the queen side, white often plays moves like a4 and b3 to undermine the black pawn structure.
all right, sorry for the dead air. There we go.
I was just reading out a paragraph from Wikipedia about this structure.
So sorry for the dead air. Here is the hydration.
Very good job there. It's important. It's important.
Okay, so yeah, e5 is a strange move.
Yeah, I was just to let you know quickly what we were talking about with the viewers. I was reading out a paragraph from Wikipedia on the Semislav, and it describes just the very basic ideas in the structure. So it mentions numerous ideas like sometimes white will go
Yeah,
for h4, knight to e5, opening up the d1 h5 diagonal for the white bishop and the queen.
yep.
D5 pawn push can also be sometimes possible. On the queen's side, a4 and b3 are always moves that white is looking at. And it criticizes e5 in this paragraph that I read at. It says, pushing the pawn to e5 is often not a good idea since it blocks the white minor pieces. So it has to be very much justified to go for this pawn push and not giving the square for the minor pieces of white. But as Gelfand said, it's rare but possible to play like this. And another game in which e5 was played is actually a game between Vladimir Kramnik and Vishy Anand. So there were a few other games, a few other little known grandmasters who tried e5 as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's thank you, Anna. That's as always very comprehensive. That's very greatly appreciated. Thanks. Uh, yeah, E5 looks strange, and I don't see anything concrete. The real question here is, you know, I mean, there is knight e5. You have this bishop that all of us. It was almost a London bishop that's now basically blocked. But I'm trying to think why e5 makes sense, but I think e4 is a nice outpost for the knight, and then that knight can go to f6 or d6 or c5 and be quite annoying. And if white wants to open up the position, maybe putting the knight on c5 where it can dominate the position, hoping for an exchange on c5 makes some sense. Not a move I would play, to be honest with you, but I'm looking forward to it. And the question before I went to hydrate myself was a question: where does the knight go? And the knight, I mean, okay, there is an obvious move that's knight d5, which surprisingly does undermine this pawn a little bit, or a pawn structure, although it straightens the pawns and closes the line. So I would be suspect of playing that move. Because if it takes, then b3, a4, and this can become blown up fairly quickly. But where does that knight can go? Obviously, I mean, if this were London, it would go on h5 to capture the bishop on g3. If, obviously we cannot go to g4 because that would be a very nice gift of a knight. Knight g8 is with an idea of it would only make sense if we want to get the knight to f5, something along these lines, but that's a little bit slow. Knight d7 is actually that, if I'm asking myself what are the candidate moves, the candidate move is the obvious one, and then this one. I mean, there's really no reason for black not to play d5 that's immediately obvious, apart from positional considerations here. But those positional considerations stay there even if we play knight d7. And then what's the idea? Push c5. All right, so it's actually a tough decision.
What would be your intuition telling you?
My intuition is that if I'm playing a bullet game, I would have played knight d5 here without thinking.
Yeah.
What also my intuition is telling you is that you're trying to swindle me, so it's knight d7 is the move that was played in the game. But seriously, I think knight d5 makes the most sense in this position.
Yeah. Now I was trying to make you doubt the most natural, because as you said, knight d5 you would play in a bullet game. And it seems the most natural. I was just curious if you will start doubting the natural move if I ask you about it. But knight e5 is the best move. Interestingly, knight h5 was played in that Kramnik Anand game. And I just want to show some of the moves because it was another crazy one. Knight h5, and after 1 second, so a4. This is Kramnik with the white pieces, Anand with the black pieces. b4 apparently was the move that Vichy had to go for, according to Gelfand in this analysis from 2008. So, of course, engines may have improved way further since, but this is what he analyzed back then. a4, a6 is the game, and knight takes g5, knight takes g3, knight takes f7. It was a crazy game in which white had the initiative, but black managed to survive and go for a counterattack. So I think that maybe later, with the help of engines and further analysis, black just started giving up on knight h5, because this looks like I don't know about you, Nikola, but I wouldn't be very safe. I wouldn't feeling very safe here.
Well, let me put it this way. For the record, let's give a quick shout out to my dear friend Dina Belenkaya, because I'm going to troll her a little bit. If I'm playing against Dina in this position, yeah, that's a great thing. And take with an f pawn and then castle short and have a play on the open f file. Put the bishop on h5, and you have a huge initiative for the piece. But no, this is a little bit crazy even by my taste.
I think crazy with both colors. I wouldn't be okay here with either side, I think.
And thank you, Naveen Plays Chess, for the follow, and thank you, Shaban Leo, for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys. So, okay, so obviously this wasn't played in our game. Knight d5.
It was knight d5 indeed.
Okay.
And you were saying that your doubt was only what happens if knight takes d5. How do you take back? So I'm gonna ask you, what would be your choice of taking back on d5?
And thank you, Def Mute Blind, for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Well, I think this is one of those situations in which we can take on e5 and have a nice diamond pawn structure. but that leaves us open to some e6 pushes. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, I wouldn't want to play this position in which I take this, and then there is this, and then knight e5 and bishop on
Yep.
h5, and that gets ugly very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you know I think just taking normally on d5 with a c pawn is one option. We can also take with a queen,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually not that uninteresting. It's just hmm. Why am I shying away from a natural move? Natural move is to take with the c pawn and just take it with the c pawn, and I don't see anything concrete for anything, and the c pawn basically solidifies the structure. We can plan on pushing on, some push on b4 and a5 might
Mm-hmm.
come into play. I would probably take with the c pawn with an idea that I'm pushing the pawns on the queen side.
Yep, very good job. Very very good job with the analysis. Basically, both c takes d5 and queen takes d5 are good options, and you eliminated the one that should not be played, even though it looks very safe and strong. This diamond pawn structure, for the reason you mentioned that it allows e6, and white can go e6 immediately, giving up that pawn just to free the e5 square. And this position is is advantage for white, but like I think quite some
Immediate, yeah,
advantage.
immediate, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
a big shout out to my dear friend Joe Bruin, the Turtle Commander. Thank you, Joe, for joining us.
You were very right with the analysis. So this is the one move that black should not play. C takes d5 or queen takes d5 are both good and they both make sense. So it's I think it's a personal preference which one you go for. Anything but e takes. So very good job. Very good.
Okay, so what? Hey, thank you, Joe, for the kind words. I'm fine. I'm having a minor surgery tomorrow to repair my elbow. I'm fine. It's just annoyances. Okay, so what was played in the game? Or
And knight takes d5 was not played, but I was curious how would you have reacted.
okay,
Castle Kingside is the game. I just wanted to mention that another game that Gafford included in his analysis here is the pawn push to h5, and that was played by none other than Gary Kasparov against Mikhail Tal. So those are the kind of
okay.
model games in this annotation. I thought it's brilliant how this game is full of these gems. Um, I can show you just briefly how that
Yes,
game
please.
went in terms of like the next moves. I don't think we will have time for the full game. Maybe another time if you want more of these crazy positions. But just to have an idea of
Um,
how Kasparov played against Tal.
and Kasparov was black.
White, white. According to this
Okay.
annotation, it's
Oh
Kaspar
yeah.
with the white pieces, Tal with the black
Oh
pieces,
yeah. Okay.
c5 and knight ce4. The Gelfand gives an exclamation mark to this move, knight c
Okay.
to e4. And after c takes, so this is the second pawn that black is taking. White simply castle, 2 pawns up for black, but the blacking is still in the middle of the board. A really messy position. We can also look at this one day if you are curious, if you'd like to see this at some point, because it's
Game
madness.
between
It's madness.
game between Tallinn and Kasparov any day, please.
Sure. Then I'm
Uh,
gonna keep it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. We could start from this position. Black is 2 pawns up, but black's king is in the middle of the board. And black is undeveloped.
yeah, no. For the record, those two guys are my with Alyahin are my chess heroes. And when asked who is the greatest chess players ever, it's with all due respect to Magnus Carlsen and him being the strongest players ever. If I had to choose who is playing for my life a chess game, it's probably a choice between Healthy Tal or Kasparov at the top of his form. So yeah,
Mhm.
unless they're playing against an engine, in which case I want Karpov to play, but that's a separate story. If they're playing against engine, I want Karpov to play or Petrosian.
Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah. I understand your choice fully. Yeah,
okay,
that
thank you, Anna.
that
That's
that
fun.
will be a game for future streams, for future ones. But here, after e5, knight d5, castle kingside happened in the game of Gelfand. So Mamadyar played castle kingside. And it's our turn to continue playing this game with the black pieces. I know it's not an opening you're familiar with, but if you were thrown into this, it's like being thrown into a swimming pool and not knowing how to swim. That's the kind of position this is. But let's try to see what would you do by intuition, Nicola.
Yeah, well, one thing that Alexandra and Andrea showed me that they just played some wild stuff in our match because they didn't want to go into opening preparation. So of course that can happen. So I'm Gelfand and I'm black and I'm trying to figure out what to play. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's a couple of strategic decisions, and I'm just gonna bear guys with me. I'm gonna talk my thinking process, and I think I'm assuming I have time to think. Question here: do I plan to castle or not? Okay. Because if I plan to castle, then I cannot play knight f4. Which appears to be a rather interesting move because, if white takes, I take on f4, I have a g file, and so on and so forth, but that means I cannot castle. At least I cannot castle kingside. So am I playing a wild game or am I playing a positional game? If I'm playing a positional game, then I can basically take on c3, push a5, and do some sort of a anti-London attack with pushing on the queen side. I'm not saying that that's a good move. I'm not saying that's a good move, but that's one possible plan. I'm also slightly undeveloped, but bishop on f8, if I'm not castling, is actually perfectly well placed where it is. I don't have any threats to face. I don't have any pawn. I can play c5, maybe. That's a potential pawn push, but that sacrifices the pawn on b5. If I want to play c5 in the future, I need to play a6 to protect the b4 pawn. That might be too slow. I can try to bring the knight from b8 to f4 and then try to improve the position of the knights. The knight of d5 is in perfectly fine shape. If I'm playing a bullet game, I'm playing knight f4 and I'm electing not to castle. If I'm playing a blitz, I'm thinking about it, and Sleepy Mario is saying you may want to play g4, and that's actually an interesting move. Thank you, Sleepy Mario. Hey, Lali, my friend, it's very good to see you. And that might be actually probably wild though when black plays bishop h4 and so on. That might be there. I can also play h5 if I'm already going into that direction. That might be pushing it. Do I want to consider castling? Hey, Dirkie, thank you for gifting a tier to Lali. Thank you, Dirkie, my friend. G4, that's interesting. H5, that might be interesting too. C5 is not possible, and do I want to play this game positionally and play, A5 and then plan on pushing C5, B4 and so on. Probably not with my king in the center. And I don't really want to broadcast. So, all right, so bullet is knight f4. I still like that move as a blitz. Another potential option is to play h5.
So knight f4 or h5.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Wrong moves.
Those moves
both are wrong moves. I can tell.
They are part of the right plan. The only issue is that we are really undeveloped. So, well, h5, as you said, that's an immediate threat. So white has to deal with that. We can check that quickly. What would happen in that position? So if black plays h5, let's turn the tables. How would you react to h5 with the white pieces?
Well, I'm going to lose my bishop very quickly, right? So I'm almost forced to play h3. Okay, and then if if black is obnoxious and plays g4 and keeps pushing, then where does that knight go? It can go on h4. It doesn't have that much play there. But then I am helping white opening the f file in a few moves, which I may be made to pay. Yeah. All right. So if I'm white, I don't really have that many options. I have to play h3 on it, right?
Yes, h3 seems
Or
to be
h4.
Yeah, the bishop is basically trapped, so pushing the h4 is white's only chance of keeping that bishop alive. So how would you react to h3, which seems to be the most natural for white?
For the record, I probably play h4 just so I have an
You prefer?
outpost.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can start with that if
No,
you
but we
prefer.
can go h3. It's also the first move I mentioned. So,
Mm-hmm.
so here is the question: can I go va-bank and go all in and play g4? And yeah, but the problem is I only have a rook. I don't have any fall-off pieces, and I have a weak king. So that might be too fast, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, white can play bishop h4 and or I mean, not immediately. It's not you know, or just remove the knight to d2 and then push push f4.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't have any firepower to bring this to bear right now as black. I mean, I would need to have at least bishop on b7 do some damage if I'm gonna push that far. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I think we can basically declare that pushing h5 is a bridge too far in this position. Yeah, I think it's too quick.
Could be not. Let's
Okay.
see. So your intuition says
Intuition, if this is a bullet, I can probably get away with playing g4 here.
both g4 is interesting, and maybe an even more interesting order of playing it is.
You mean you want to play h4 first and then push g4?
I wonder, how do you evaluate that?
Well, okay, if we push h4, then it's bishop h2, and then we push, after he takes push g4, he takes, if he takes, we push h3, and then we have two open files and some rather interesting attack.
Mm-hmm.
We can try to open the file for the bishop on for diagonal for the bishop on b7, and at some point we're going to have to move the king somewhere and connect the rooks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm black in this position. All right, let's do this. Let's play this out. Let's play h4.
Yeah. Do you want to play at the moves that you were
Yeah, I
calculating?
can play the moves.
It makes a lot of sense what you said.
Yeah, so h4. I don't think white can sacrifice, so he needs to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure white needs to take, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a safe statement.
And all right, so there is an option here. We can play this, and I'm just being obnoxious here. In which case, we have a very nice stall pawn here. But
At least it stops the h pawn. But yeah, looking at that bishop and the future of that bishop, promising, very promising future.
Yes, that bishop is retired. that bishop is in Boca Raton sipping tequila and not doing anything. It's actually a rather nice position for a bishop. Um, okay. Hey, Logis, thank you. So here's a question here. But on the other hand, there is no immediate, the all immediate threats that black may have had are kind of neutralized. But that's obviously not the position we want to play. That bishop, basically, black plays on the queen side and wins the game because it has an extra piece. Okay.
Yes. So we've given back the pawn, but it basically gave us a virtual piece up. Very good job with the calculation of h4 and then g4, h3. Really good.
So I guess this is the...
Yeah, that's the other question, if white can take on h3 to at least not do what happened to the bishop in the previous line.
Yeah, and this rook is very, very happy here, but it doesn't have any support. And I mean, we can't jump on f4. This knight is covering key squares. This pawn is actually not under attack. What do we do here? I mean, yeah, this is... I mean, we can leave the rook here. It's not under any immediate threat. And then we can try to play something along the lines of, bring the bishop into play, bring the knight, queen, castle, even play maybe king d7. But we're at least 5 moves away from bringing any reinforcements to the rook. In the meantime, yes, white can play king g2, put the rook on h1, play bishop g3, and white is actually faster to bring forces to bear on these lines. Right, Anna?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so are we declaring this line not appealing for black because it's too quick too soon?
Depends. Would you have faith in it in a blitz game?
No, I'm too slow. No, I'm not. I mean, I'm too old to slow. I even have an emote that says too old to slow. Hey, Simply Switting, thank you. Thank you to see you here. Yeah, I don't wanna. I don't like this. I don't like black's position here. It's these pieces are there, and it's cramped, and this rook is pretty, but it's not doing much. So I wouldn't want to play this as black.
Yeah, I think this here is the right evaluation, especially since it's white to move, and white could continue with a move like knight e4, which improves the knight. Ready to jump to g5 as well, and this knight on e4 in general is really annoying. So there's one improvement with which this could be somewhat better for black, and that is including that trade
on
anywhere
C3.
Before. Yes, so we had that option either before the pawn pushes or at any point. Maybe here, whenever we want, we could include this, and then the same position would be more appealing because now this bishop is a move away from being ready to attack, and there's no knight e4 anymore. So this I think does change the picture.
Yes, that's a much nicer position, and also this dark square bishop comes into play, which is nice.
Yeah. So in this sense, it is good, the pawn pushes. But there's one problem with h5, which I would have never found if it wasn't for the engine. So I'm gonna show you. Oh, we also said h4. Your intuition was h4, and I think h4 is a better move than h3 because h3 does allow this h4, g4, h3 pawn break. So h4 at least stops the pawn launch before it's too late. I think this is still an interesting position. So the problem with h5 is not h4. h4 is a better move. I think this is what white should go for. But but there's something. I We can take a look at this briefly. I analyzed here just this trade can always be included or not. I included it and then pushed g4, and
Okay.
this is just a messy position where maybe white will want to give that up or not. Will white play f3? Will white play f4? It's unclear. I think this is unclear.
I mean, I would probably attempt to open the f file and hit f7.
Yeah.
If I'm obnoxious, I can even play knight f7.
Mm-hmm. Oh, knight f7 here.
Yeah,
Brave.
and then uh, I mean, I'm not saying that's a recommended move, but that's an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I it's kind of tempting to bust open the position completely, but here it's a straightforward position for white in a sense that white pushes on f3, and I'm not sure how black can prevent the f file from being opened.
Yeah, the question is how dangerous that is, and also will white just give up the pawn on g5 to allow the trade twice there or not? But I agree with you that this is mm,
As
unclear, but maybe easier to play as white.
as I said, my idols are Kasparov, Talya, and Alyahin,
Yeah,
so I am not counting pawns.
definitely, definitely. So if you're not counting pawns, do you count pieces, Nikola?
Yeah, all right. So what do you have here for us? What piece did they sacrifice? Just I'm curious. Uh,
So h3 and h4 are the options we have looked at, but
yes.
there's an even stronger move for white here. What do you think that could be?
Uh, okay. All right. So it's a piece sacrifice, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So I have to admit I don't see. Hey, Mike88, thank you for the follow. Well, I can take on g5 and then push f4, f5. At some point, maybe take on h5, open f file, and I'm getting somewhere. I don't think without a hint I would have considered that move. I'm not sure it's the right move. I'm not sure I see the follow-up. On the other hand, subtract this pawn from the position and white is basically almost winning.
So how do you subtract that pawn?
Um, well, I take on g5 and the black takes, I push f4 and then push f5. The problem is you have knight e3 and I'm giving not just a piece, I'm giving a lot of material.
Yep, that's correct. But that's one way of getting rid of the f pawn. You're right. What would be another way? Let's think about this a bit more.
Okay.
And there's a question to you guys as well in the chat. Like
Yeah,
this is a brain gym for everybody.
yeah. Logis is saying just play knight e4 and knight c5 and white is happy. That makes perfect sense. Okay, but bottom line, and here is what Logis is onto something. If white plays knight e4, how does black defend that pawn on g5? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And some line along the lines of knight e4, g4. We can even play knight g5 and then push f3.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a little bit less flashy, but it doesn't require a piece sacrifice.
True.
Okay. Not to
So
mention,
what do you think would be the worry of white if knight e4 seems so promising? What's was the move that we need to be calculating. Knight
Okay, so
e4.
we're talking about after knight e4, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the dangerous move is, I mean, that knight is first and foremost undefended. So we can even do something obnoxious and play knight e3, but that opens the f file, so that doesn't make any sense. Is there? No, we can't because there is pawn on c6, so I need to forget about the whole idea. So after knight e4, I can still play knight f4. Right.
Yeah, but also black started a plan, so black was
Well,
going to.
there is this
Or you think, or
there
you
is
don't
this
consider that
there is a
dangerous.
nice threat of h4. Yeah, no, that's fine. But we are basically allowing it so we can take it with an f pawn, right? So something along these lines of this, this, and this.
Yep.
And I'm winning, right? And white should be winning in this position.
Shall we play out those moves?
Yeah, let's do that. Hey, HB4R, thank you for the follow, and thank you, Might88, for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, so knight h4, this, 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 this. And this is, oh, give me this position against anyone as white.
Yes, exactly. So it's a piece down. We have given up the bishop, but you said you wanted the f file open. f7 is hanging.
Yeah.
There's no way of protecting it. Black has no way of defending f7, so this is a winning position for white.
Oh, please, yeah. This obviously wasn't played in the game, but that's a nice. That's actually a very nice line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So h5 would have been actually quite promising if it wasn't for the fact that white can give up the g3 bishop.
Well, white doesn't need to take the g3 bishop, but if he doesn't take the g3 bishop, then knight is on g5, and
h5 doesn't make sense if the bishop trapping is not going to work out for black, if it doesn't work out well for black.
Yeah, but this would work if bishop were on e7, right? Well, it wouldn't work even there, but it would be better, because then this whole plan doesn't work. All right, so this wasn't played in the game.
No, it wasn't, but it was important to look at. So I'm happy that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's a nice sequence.
Knight d5. Oh, I need to promote the lines because this is what happens to me without promoting it. I need to click on this one. Castle kingside happened. h5 is important to look at because it threatens to win a piece, but now we know why
it doesn't work.
Not that big of an issue for white. So knight d7, just a developing move. Knight f4 is a good potential idea, but black needs to develop their pieces as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, it appears that castling long might even be a good option. Anyway, we'll get there.
True. We could get there. White played knight to d2, and Gelfand is adding in his annotation that this is the point of the e5 push, that now this knight is coming toward e4.
Sure, and then he can push on f4 and try to open the f file.
Yeah, freeing the f pawn and also heading toward e4. What do we do next?
So we are black again.
Yes.
Okay, for the same reason h5 didn't work before, I don't think it works now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question here is, what exactly is we know what the white plan is. So what is our plan?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, well, our plan might be to try to generate some counterplay. And the counterplay in this position is what? take and push c5. I don't want to really play b4, so that's not an option. I can try to play c5, but that means playing a6 to protect this pawn.
Mhm.
I can try to I can try to reinforce this by playing bishop e7 to try to develop. Okay. Do I have time for bishop e7? I think I do, actually, Anna.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Would that be your choice? Bishop to e7?
I'll tell you what I'm looking at. I'm looking if white can play a4, then take on d5 at some point, and then I have, if I have to take with the e pawn, then there is this e6 threat still looming. I'm trying not to get caught up in that, but I don't think that's any way, shape, and form immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I like bishop e7. It reinforces this, which was a weakness. It kind of re-energizes the push to h5, and it, go from there. I really, another option is to play something like a6 and then maybe get these pawns mobile, because right now they can't really move, because if I play b4, this pawn is hanging. If I play c5, this pawn is hanging.
Mm-hmm. True.
Okay. All right, so candidate moves this and this. And I like bishop e7 for some reason.
Mm-hmm. If you play bishop e7, would you also aim for castle kingside, or is simply to develop the bishop?
Well, if I'm planning on castle kingside, I may then play bishop g7. It's just castle kingside looks. To be honest, there isn't a really good place to castle for black.
Yeah.
But
would you then want to keep the king in the middle of the board, or would you still try to castle one flank or the other?
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question. Realistically, I mean, I think kingside is reserved for a black's counterattack. I think that h5, h4 is still an option, so I don't want to castle there. I think I need to play bishop e7 to reinforce g5, so that plan we discussed can come into play. I can decide later where I want to castle. So I think I'm playing bishop e7.
Yeah, bishop e7 is one of the good options. Interestingly, bishop g7, and it looks like there's not that big of a difference, but bishop g7 seems to be a mistake, an immediate mistake strategically.
Yeah.
Can you spot why this is a strategic mistake?
A strategic mistake because this, we are basically conceding d6, which we must not. So, and conceding d6 only makes sense if we plan to castle kingside, and we are not going to do that. So we're not playing bishop g7.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, the d6 square is the immediate trouble with knight e4. So bishop e7 is a good move. a6 that you mentioned is another one of the best options. Bishop e7, a6, they both are some of the strongest moves for black. a6 with the idea that you described. Now that the pawn on b5 is protected, you are ready to push c5. So this is another good option for black. And the third good option is what Gelfand played. So both bishop e7, a6 are good, and Gelfand went for the third option, which is queen to b6. It still leaves the other options open too. I mean, a6 now makes less sense because the queen 2 is protecting the pawn.
Yeah.
But bishop b7 can always be included.
Yeah, and also kind of blocks away some. Yeah, okay. Now that makes perfect sense.
No, I'm not even kidding, guys. I see you are quoting me on that. But these three, I think, are the options for black. No other moves make much sense. And we saw bishop g7 is not a good move. Any other move like early h5, b4, aggressive moves like that don't make sense, and not developing black species also is leading to problems. So these were the three options. Don't laugh at me, chat. This was actually
Hey,
meant to
Danny,
be.
it's good to see you. Yes, this is what Anna always does to me. All right. Okay, so he played queen b6, which makes
Yes.
perfect sense. So b4, b5 is protected. Queen is actually on the active file, and there is actually a threat to take on d4. Push on c5 is now an option.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say this lightly. Good move.
Yes, it is a good move. White reacted with an aggressive move, not minding that the d4 pawn is hanging, but counter-attacking with a4. How would you react, Nikola?
Okay. Well, this is one of those moves that had to be responded fairly quickly, immediately, because, okay. Well, I can play a6 and then take on b5 and then go from there. That's one option.
Mm-hmm.
I am still a tad. I mean, probably at this point it's just a chimera, but I really don't want to allow e6 in some variations.
Yes.
So, although I don't think there's much follow-up, though this is annoying. So basically, I really don't want. Come on, chess.com. All right, so I don't want to allow variation like this, and then e6.
Mm-hmm.
That scares me because this bishop all of a sudden becomes a monster. I have this, and rook comes here, and this becomes pretty dangerous pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So that basically, I can't stay put in this position.
Yes, true.
So I need to play a6. I can try to push b4, but then then white can take on c4 with a tempo, so that's not really an option.
Mm-hmm.
And the question here is, do I have any other move outside of playing a6?
Would you consider queen takes d4?
Yeah, I neglected that. That's fair. Okay, so he played a4 and he basically told me take my pawn.
Yeah, would you take it? Intuition wise, would you take
No.
it?
No, because if I take it, this takes, and then what do? If I take, then this takes, and it's pretty ugly pretty quickly.
Yes, very good intuition. Taking on
Yeah.
d4 will just end up opening the position. Black is undeveloped, the king on e8. We don't want
Yeah.
that.
All right, so I need to respond, and the response there, the problem with b4. I mean, is that this is the response, so that's not a good option.
Mm-hmm.
So the option 1 is a6. The option 2 is to actually take on c3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have few options. I can push on c5 and open up this bishop, and so on and so forth. I mean, a6 is a natural move in this position.
It is. And that's the move that Gavin played.
Yeah.
So good job.
Yeah.
Question was, I think by some of you, why not knight de4? But because a4 basically forces a6, Mehmedov played a4 and then knight de4. So I think Shahriar is answering our question. That is a good move, knight de4, because it does protect the pawn, improves the position of the knight. But including a4 is usually something that white wants.
Yep. Okay, so what do we do? So that was played. I'm still black here, right? So
yes. Next up, Nikola to play after knight to e4. What would be your thoughts here in
You
this
see,
very easy position?
I indicated to Anna that actually like having an initiative and I like to attack. And what did Anna? Um, can I switch to ICC pieces for better contrast? Okay, I certainly can. Let's see, pieces. All right, let me guys. Ah, okay, those are actually. Is this, you guys prefer this? I actually like these. They're a little neony, but if you guys prefer it, that's fine. Okay, King's Bishop, no worries. There you are. Doesn't it's if Anna is okay with this and everybody else in chat likes it, it's good.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm good with
no
either.
worries. Thank you, King's Bishop, for the advice. Appreciate it. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Logis, and thank you, B8 Checkmate. It's good to know. I wasn't aware of that. This is good. This is good. All right. To go back to this position. What are the immediate? Do we have any immediate threats we need to handle as black?
Good question.
All right. The black squares are defended. White can try to push f4, which may or may not be the good move. This is moderately annoying. And then there is this whole complex of takes, queen a1, bishop b7, and black, there is nothing there. Yeah, this is type of position, Anna, that I routinely have difficulties with. It's a long-term strategic thing. Hey, Frappuccino, it's good to see you.
So what would be your candidate moves if you had to list by intuition some of the moves that come to your mind?
Well, I do not dare open the position here, because if I open the position, I'm going to be dead soon, which basically means c5 is probably not something I want to play. I can try to put the bishop on e7 and then start pushing this, though this is now double. I mean, I really don't have any pawn attack on the king side. Playing this is interesting, but then actually that might even be playable. Yeah.
So earlier you rejected b4 because the knight was still on d2, and now after knight d e4, it is an option. At least there's no knight takes c4 immediately.
Correct, yeah. And if it's exchanged, the pawn on c4 is defended. And where does that knight go? Hey, I'm in setting. Thank you for the follow. It's tempting on it, to be honest with you.
So what would be your thinking after b4? How will white react to b4?
Well, white can... I mean, white doesn't want to take on d5. So where does this knight go? I mean, he can even play a5, which is probably not a good move, but that's definitely an option. Because, yeah, this is an annoying line. If I play b4, white can play this, and then basically put the knight on a4. And then I have these weak squares. right.
So very important intermediate move that white can push a5, vacate
Yeah,
the a4 square for the knight, and also that will not allow us push a5 ourselves. So we would like to strengthen that pawn structure and not allow white to push the pawn to a5, but it happens as an
with
intermediate move. There's
yeah,
no time to prevent it.
yeah. So we can't. The if I allowed knight on b6 or c5 or a4, I'm dead very quickly. Not to mention that I can't defend this pawn.
Yes, very good. Very good spotting. A5 is really important because if white had to retreat with the knight, then b4 does make sense.
Yeah,
And sometimes you can give back the c pawn, but at least white was forced to go knight b1 or knight a2. But because of a5, the knight can still be active and the pawn is falling on c4. Plus, as you said, knight d6 is also coming potentially later, or other knight jumps after knight
yeah.
a4. So, really good analysis.
All right, so I really hate playing these positions. Just so
Very
not that
good.
it's
I'm happy
anybody's
now.
obvious. Thank you, Anna. Actually, I played a similar position against Alexandra and Andrea, and actually, I ended up losing the game, but it was not uninteresting to play, and I had my chances. So, what am I doing here as black?
I just wanted to mention again what I said to you in an email, that you played really well in the match. I
Thank
thought
you.
I looked through the games this morning. I went through all the games in detail because I saw some of them in the VOD, but I didn't see all the games. And now that I
Yeah.
have seen all 10 games, there were very few mistakes, very few, and it was just incredible
Anna is
how
very
you
generous.
constantly aim. No, it's true, Nicola. You played very well, and you immediately avoided adoption in the very first game,
Sure.
and then you collected the 3 points, 3.5 points in total, that were needed. So really good job in terms of the results, but also the level of play was
Thank
very
you, Anna.
high.
That's very kind of you, and that's actually my opinion of the match. Still, I my big question mark for the match is that I managed to add to the collection of the games in which I think I'm mating Alexandra and I'm instead of blundering a queen. That was the most annoying part. But anyway, all right. So look, I'm Nikola. I like to play risk. One of my dear friends is Mark Esserman. So I'm just gonna cast along and tell White come and get me.
Very good. That conclusion came really quickly after looking at before, not liking it. So castle queenside is your main candidate move. Any
Yeah.
other moves that you consider somewhat seriously, or everything is just like
Well, there is an option to. It's the same plan. Others play knight e7. Castle long. Put the bishop here. Pushing. Start doing in honor of Yasser, push and baby, and basically betting that this structure of a6 here with the bishop here and queen assisting is gonna be sufficient for white to resist. The big issue here is that if one of these knights gets traded for this bishop, I lose control over my dark squares, and I need to figure out how to handle it. So I should not. This is the primary reason why I shouldn't allow a knight on a4 and then c5, because this bishop really is what's holding the position together. Subtract this bishop for say this bishop, and black is lost immediately. Yeah, but yeah, you know what? Castling long, I'm not. The king sitting where it is, I'm not gonna survive long. So yeah, a bishop e7 or castling long are basically part of the same plan.
Mhm. castle queenside is also the move that Boris Gelfand went for, and he added in his annotation, I spent a lot of time on this move, but I liked it more than other options. So basically, he went for, well, the same system of elimination, I guess.
Okay,
Before and
I'll
other
take it.
options. He looked at c4 too as an option, but rejected it. I think you said briefly that, well, you don't really want to be opening up the position with the king in the middle of the board. He obviously calculated the concrete line there in case there's something direct, but by principle, it does make sense that you want to castle first. And now c4 would make a lot of sense if we can get that move in.
Yeah. No, the thing here is there's not that much difference whether king is on c8 or e8, but you get the rook in play, and uh, you know it makes perfect sense. Yes, and that's a motive. If you play c5 now, c5 makes sense, and so on and so forth. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad I found the move. And hey, okay, tested. It's very good to see you. And thank you, Hedgecock. I thought that was the most entertaining of the matches as well. So thanks.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
agree. I fully agree.
yeah, whenever you play against Alexander and Andrea, they have their own, internal family thing. And so, anyway, thanks.
I really like the format that for them it was team chess that they could
Yes.
consult with each other what to play, but it also like oftentimes they would be wanting to play different ideas. So it was interesting to see when they agreed and other times when they were just like trying to play something else.
Yeah. No.
At their way of thinking, I think it was very very educational to watch because they are
Yes.
reasoning for one move or the other.
Yes.
So I really like the format.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, we'll repeat it. Uh, okay, so all right. So am I gonna flip the board and say what am I playing as white now?
You could. I wasn't gonna ask it here, but yes, why not?
Okay, why did I volunteer again? All right. So what am I doing here as white? Well, white has several good plans here. One plan that has been on the board forever was to play this and
Mhm.
try to bust open, and if black doesn't take, push f5 and start hitting this pawn. So that might be one gateway into white's position. The problem here is that all of a sudden knight f4 has some bite. So if I
Mhm.
play this and he takes on f4, there are some nasty tricks, and the knight might end up on b3, and that's not a very pleasant position. As Anna pointed out, there are all sorts of funky stuff happening here.
Mhm.
So f4 might not actually be the move to make. Sepper actually don't agree that it was a handicap for Alex because they didn't play a single Bottas Gambit in 10 games. And one of the key advantages that Andrea brings to the team of Alex and Andrea is that she eliminates Bottas Gambits. And second advantage is that Andrea also plays better openings than Alex. So we ended up playing with no Bottas Gambit and Andrea's openings. I will venture to say that for all disagreements and everything else, that's about plus 150 to 200 kilos in Alexandra's favors. Seriously.
No,
And
I agree with the
yeah,
elimination of the Bottas Gambit and
yeah,
better opening repertoire. That's
correct.
quite a contribution to the match.
All right, so what do we play? Probably, this f4 would probably merit a very long calculation. Hey,
Mhm.
GQ, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Thank you for the follow, my friend. So what am I doing here? Um, Thank you, Arkantosan, for the follow. So what am I doing here? I can take, which, and then see if I can get some play on this.
Mhm.
I really wish I can even play this because the knight is defended.
Mhm.
Both of those are actually pretty dangerous moves because if b file gets open and this rook comes here, that's pretty unpleasant. F4 may even work. Takes, but then there is Okay, so that's another option. I obviously don't want to play a5 and close the position. There is always this, which might be too committal because then black has f5 at some point, right? And then this bishop is in danger. Mamediara was white, right?
Yes.
Mamediara is an aggressive player, but he's not the type of players to go va-bank. He doesn't play like Tal or... b3 is a safe move. Right. And because what we can do if white-black takes, we can then take on b5, takes, and then there is then take on b3. We are kind of opening up the c file that we can take advantage of. The problem is that this pawn is hanging and we don't want it to hang. All right, so and obviously if we play f4, we want to account for knight e3. So are we sacrificing an exchange? So we can't play f4. We can't move the f pawn. I think b3 plan makes the most sense. We don't need to take on b3 immediately. And that pawn is not going anywhere. So we can play b3 and then take on b5 and then figure out a way to put the rook on c1. And do I see anything else here? I mean, h4 is probably advantage for black. Knight d6. Yeah, I don't want to play knight d6 and allow f5. I think b3 is the move that makes the most sense, unless I'm missing something, which I probably am.
So b3.
Yes.
Let's turn the tables.
Oh,
Black
geez.
to move. How do you react? We can play out that move, b3, and then turn. I'm guessing you're looking at it from black's perspective for the whole time.
Yeah,
but I was
that's
saying
fine.
if it helps sometimes to flip it, you can also, of course, flip it.
No, that's fine. All right, so b3, what does black play? Black can finally move this. Actually, bishop b4 might be a good move.
Yeah, candidate move, bishop b4.
Yeah. What else does black have? Can we play c5? Actually, c5 is interesting. b3, c5, takes, and then this is, All right, so if b3 is moved, and I'm going to make the move.
Yes.
What happens if I do this? I'm just this, and oh, I can't do that, obviously, sorry. Yeah, I can't. c5 is, I'm short a few tempi to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do is I can take on c3,
Mm-hmm.
take c3, and then push b4,
All
and then
right.
push c3, and I'm actually in pretty damn good shape.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's play out those moves and see. Knight
Okay.
takes.
All right, so knight takes. I don't see a better move than knight takes, and I push this.
Mm-hmm.
And
How did you
whereas
think white should react?
a good question. I mean, am I sacrificing something here?
Hmm.
Mm. HS Gibitzer 2020, thank you for the raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, my friend.
That's a nice way to say it. Yes.
Yeah, we still have this annoying intermediate move. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this a5, it still is
It's
a really
really
interesting
annoying.
position for black. Yeah,
It's
but
it's
a5 is
annoying.
so important. Yeah.
Yes, I can't play this whole line because of that intermediate move.
It's still, I think it's still unclear after e5, but if we can just show real quick that position why a5 is so important if white does not play a5 after the line you showed with knight takes c3 and
Oh, I'm sorry.
b4.
I'm now doing. All right. So b4. So if
Yeah,
if he
so
moves the knight, I just play this, and then these two pawns are rather monstrous. And if I
mhm,
ever, and this bishop is still controlling everything.
mhm,
This pawn is hanging. I can, I can play c5 at some point and open up the position, and I'm controlling the d file. And at some point, if rook is going to end up on d2, and I think, black is visibly better here.
yes. So the issue with a5, what's the difference if white can get that a5 move in before moving the knight?
Okay, so let's go back. All right, so it has to take on c3, b4, a5 is that wherever we move the queen, and actually there are not that many good moves, because, say something like this, right?
Hmm.
Um, then obviously black has this, and this knight is pretty annoying.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, knight to a4 or knight to e4. It depends now if we can take the pawn on a5 or not. I know it's looking
Well,
frightening.
yeah, but basically this position
Yeah.
is definitely much better for white than the one we just looked at, because this pawn is now a permanent weakness. This knight is actually very well placed. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
always makes sense for white to push a5 as an intermediate move.
Yeah.
Yes, very good job. Very good job. So this is one option. It's a mess. But there's after knight takes c3, if you just leave it at that position b3, knight takes. Actually, yeah, the trade on not c5, but the
Yeah,
trade
I'm
on
starting. I'm
c3.
starting to understand the whole promotion of wine business.
Yeah, I think John had a point when he was trying to make me do it, but it
Okay.
it takes it takes a lot of effort sometimes to realize that you forgot to do it, because like it makes sense and I would like to do it, but yeah, let me promote this and then we are
Okay.
in the right one. Yes, now we are good. um you guys can't see it, but obviously the more sidelines we add, the more difficult it is to jump back to the point where we want to go back to. So here there's an even simpler way for black to play. B4 is interesting, but there's something even simpler and
Oh.
better in that sense. It's stronger.
Um. Well, what can we do? We can. You mean here there is better move than before, right?
Yes, yeah, some a line where white struggling to have enough compensation for the material.
Okay. Hey, Kimo 2021. Thank you for the follow. All right. So, blah. What am I missing here? We can always do this, and I shouldn't be making moves. So hold on. I mean, we can also just basically attack the knight and ask him a question where it wants to go.
That's an option.
Okay. And then if it goes something like this, then we can play c5. And that's actually probably better for black. So that's one option. Can we play c5 immediately? That's a good question. I mean, we can't take on e5. All right, I'm missing something here. What am I missing?
Of course, all these positions are really messy, so there's nothing
You know,
that, oh, this is clear advantage for black. But just simplifying further and maybe getting more material if we can.
okay, so well, we can take on b3, and then white really cannot take the pawn on b3.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly the point. That even though this is still a mess, and maybe white should just still go for queen takes b3 and create some kind of compensation after queen takes d4. But this is now two pawns, and there's nothing that concrete. Yes, white should have the initiative with a move like rook d1.
But it's two pawns. Two pawns
Yeah,
are two pawns, yeah. And they're actually connected passed pawns on the queen side.
yeah, and even if rook d1, a move like queen b4 steps out of the d file with a tempo, so it's not that simple for white to prove that they have enough composition, and it's still of course a very complex position, but getting more difficult for white to have enough for the material.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's okay.
Very good job.
I okay. No, that makes perfect sense. And I presume that's not what Nonsense to say bishop b4, knight d4, c5, knight d6.
Yeah, that's a good point. The one of the lines you mentioned, bishop b4 and then c5, and no nonsense. You're right that that fails to knight d6 check. Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
but we didn't end up analyzing that, so I thought it wasn't that important. But no nonsense has picked up on it immediately.
Yeah, that's right. And the plan was probably to just take on d6 with a bishop, but that kind of defeats the purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Perfect.
Very good. So this is why b3 is not that good. This line is all coming from where I asked you to
Yeah.
try to find something for white, or at least decide how would you continue here. It's really a complex position, but b3 fails to knight takes c3 and then c takes b3.
Yeah.
Still a complex position, but white will be struggling a little bit with the having enough compensation. So Shahryar went for bishop to h5
Okay.
instead. There was another game where queen d2 was played, although that doesn't really solve the d file, so I'm not sure about that one. But that was also played between two
He was
grandmasters.
probably planning on f4 and wanted to get the queen out of to defend e3.
Could be the case.
Yeah.
So now, of course, once again, it's black to move and Nikola to think.
I am starting to like black's position.
Great. Maybe I'll have to. I will have to ask you to find Shahryar's moves from now on again, constantly.
Okay, so what am I doing here? Okay, So nothing really prevents me from playing. I can play c5, right? That has been on the table for some time.
Yeah.
So that's option number one. I can take on c3 and then play c5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the question here is white in this position can take with a b pawn, in which case I'm having a rather nasty situation with the b file. So probably knight c3 is not a good option.
Mm-hmm.
So I can play c5. Um, do I really care to defend this one?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can I even defend it? I mean, what am I playing? This? I mean, actually may not be a bad move. Okay. So the question here, what is it? What exactly am I playing in this position, Anna? Right. Um, the question here is, do I like this? Well, c5 is a threat, and that pawn is hanging, and then takes and takes. I highly doubt that Geffen would play rook h7, though that might actually be a bullet move. Um, I don't see any reason not to play c5. He
Mm-hmm.
can he? I mean, there is also an option to play b4 in this position because this pawn is no longer hanging. But that,
Yep, that's correct too.
yeah,
So c5, b4 are some of your candidate moves here.
yeah, and I can also play this if I want to desperately defend this pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything else that actually makes sense.
All right. Um, you you were really right with your evaluation of when
I
you
still
said
have
rook
this mess.
h7.
I still have this a5s that the response to b4, which is still
Yeah,
annoying.
that's always
So we
unfortunately an
can
annoying
so we can
intermediate move.
discount this. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the this is ugly, and white and black has been passive for so long that it kind of hurts to just keep going playing passively.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
question
very
here
true. Very
question
true.
here is, do I really want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And is there another possibility? I mean, this bishop is for all intents and purposes well developed where it is. It doesn't really need to do anything. I mean, it would be more marginally better if it was an e7, but there is a question of what to do with this pawn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think active measures make sense. c5.
Yes, c5 is one of the main options. Rook h7, let me mention what Gelfand wrote in his annotation. Rook h7, I didn't like rook h7. And you exactly said, I don't think that Gelfand would want to play rook h7. You were very right about that. And it turns out that Shahryar himself had a position, this exact same position, someone else playing against Shahryar in the Blitz event that followed the Town Memorial. Oh, it's Karyakin. I see now here that the same Moscow Town Memorial, but the separate Blitz event of the Town Memorial, Karyakin tried Rook H7 in this position and suffered a defeat in 24 moves.
Ouch. So that's like 6 moves after this, or 10 less than. Oh, okay. I want to know.
Yeah, Rook H7 actually in itself is not a bad move. So it's well, it's not good, but it's not like a losing move. But you are right. The position of black is so passive. It's been passive, and it just makes it even further passive.
Yeah.
So that's not the way to go. C5 is one of the main options here. C5 is a move that that Gaffan has been considering seriously. He said c5, and then the only thing he didn't like, he said, I seriously considered c5, but after, and then he analyzes a takes b5,
Yeah.
a takes b5, and here, surprising but annoying, knight takes d5. Why this move is annoying? What do you think?
It's annoying because good because obviously we need to. I mean, all right. So why is it annoying? It's annoying because once we take, which we have to take with something,
Yeah.
and okay. What does Gelfand have here? What does Mamedyarov has here? Um,
It's not like it's a lost position for black, but it's unpleasant in both cases. In both cases, so e takes d5. There's something that's annoying about it, and bishop takes d5. There will be a line for white that's annoying.
all right, so
So let's
bishop
try
takes
to
on
find both.
d5
Yeah.
is, well, if he takes with a bishop, then annoying line is probably to take. What what can we do here? All right, so let's focus. I'm going to focus for this because I think that's more immediately obvious.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And more immediately obvious is that after something like, if he takes with a pawn, we can, what can we do here? There is this, or rather, there is an option of playing knight, bishop g4 at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and it opens this diagonal, and white can even play e6, which is what worried me for some time. Actually, is
So
that
e
the...
takes d5.
All right, so let me move these. So it takes d5, and what do we do here? Hold on. We can take on c5, but that doesn't work. But we can immediately play e6. No, we can't. Hold on. No, that's not it. Let me think for a second.
Sure.
We can play... Oh god, this is a complete jumble of pieces. Just give me a second.
Take your time. This is a difficult one.
All right, so I'll take on c5,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on what you take the c5 with, if you obviously can't take with a queen, you have to take with a knight. If you take with a knight, I'm going to give a check on g4, and that's pretty annoying because there is an e6 option. So you really shouldn't take it with a knight. You have to take with a bishop. And if you take the bishop, takes the f7, this is a passed pawn. I'm in deep trouble. Oh.
Yes. A pawn that wasn't so important earlier, the f7 pawn, but now with the pawn on e5, and we don't have an e6 pawn anymore. White has a passed pawn, and the diagonal of the g3 bishop will be opening up. So yeah, a lot of trouble. Would you like to show those moves on the board? Play out those
Sure.
moves that you said.
All right, so basically I take this, I can take this here, and then I take this, and this is pretty ugly. I'm threatening this, I'm threatening this. Black king is wide open, and yeah, I don't want to play this as black. This is pretty bad.
Very good. Yes.
Okay.
Good job. So this is why e takes d5 is not appealing. What about bishop takes then?
All right, so Oh, again, we are.
Wait, let me help you.
Yeah,
Let me help you
please.
because this time
Thank you.
it's my bad. Here I didn't promote when I push
No,
c5.
no, no worries.
So wait. This, and if bishop takes d5, now that's the new question.
Okay, so what do we do with the bishop takes the d5? That the whole
Yeah.
thing about. Okay. Um. All right. Okay, so that's a different position.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think for a second. Um, okay, so I can take on c5 and I can move the knight somewhere. Obviously, I need to either if I need to take on c5 or move the knight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so taking on c5 and then he can take with something. And I have this check on d6, which is pretty dangerous. All right. All right, so let's do this. And then this. Hmm. All right, so let me see here. If I take, if I, all right, I'm starting to be confused, which is the whole point of the exercise.
Yes, very good. I'm happy.
Thank you. Now, all right, so what do we do here? Uh, check on d6 is not an option. We can play knight f6, but then we have a problem. We can't allow black to take on d4. If we're doing for that, we need to take on c5, takes on c5, takes on c5. And then we can play knight f6, which doesn't lead us anywhere. We can also take on f7. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Cheskibitzer, for the raid. Oh, that was before incoming. Okay. All right. Yeah. So can we? All right. So let me rewind because honestly, and I don't see it here.
Sure.
Uh,
So once again, your thought process here for white
yeah.
was
Let me do the
that
thought process. Thought process is that I need to do something with the fact that this knight is obviously being attacked.
yes, correct.
I'm a pawn down. Not that it matters, but yes, I'm a pawn down, but I'm not really bought down for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, oh, thank you, Benjamin Bach, for the rating of the Party of 42. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Benjamin.
Benjamin, and welcome everybody
That's very
joining us.
sweet.
This is our weekly session with Nikola. If you guys haven't seen it, this is a new show that basically features Nikola as the star of the show, and I'm here as the torturer of the show. We call it
Anna
Nikola
is the
Learns
start of
Chances.
the show. Let's be,
No.
and she's very kind, but Anna is the start of the show. So, and I'm the dance pupil. So,
You're a very good pupil, and I also want the viewers to be really good pupils. So every Wednesday at this time of the day, we are here bringing you guys complex middle game positions where there's a lot to learn. Today, we are looking at the game between Shahriar Mamedjerov and Boris Gelfand. And in this middle game position currently, we are thinking about what is the best way for white to continue. That's what Nicola needs to figure
correct.
out, but I'm throwing the question to all of the raiders as well. The knight to e4 is hanging. Would you move it? Would you consider something else? What would be
Yeah.
your choice?
Yeah, and this is a feature, one of the features. The streams, it's every Wednesday at 5 p.m. New York time, and Anna tortures me. So successfully, and I have to admit that this position has made me completely confused. All right, so the thought process is I have a knight, I have this pawn that we have that pawn on f7 that's basically undefended.
Yep.
So what are the candidate moves? Candidate moves is to take on c5, which
Yeah.
basically eliminates that threat, and then black can take with several pieces, meaning with
True.
queen and with a bishop and with a knight.
Mm-hmm.
There is a perennial threat on f7, but obviously that's not an option because knight is threatening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be slightly annoying and play knight d6, and then after exchange take on d6. That's a possible candidate move because it doesn't result in an immediate loss. This knight needs to be moved, and it's not exactly clear where would be convenient for knight to go, because if it goes on knight f6, there is a bishop e5 and all sorts of interesting stuff.
Uh-huh.
The real question here is, what is the strategic plan for white? And one possibility is to kind of get rid of this pawn so this bishop can finally got activated, and we went in for that variation in one of the other moves. This rook has really no way of getting anywhere near the black king, unfortunately. And so the question here is, all right, I think that the legitimate plan here is I want to activate this bishop.
All right.
So I'm going to take on c5.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on what white takes with, if it takes with a knight, then I can exchange. I need to worry a little bit about the rook attacking the queen. Because if by taking on c5, I'm opening the d file for everybody.
True.
Just a rough idea for my ELO is I only ever played 3 rated games or USCF, and that was a few years ago, so technically I'm unrated. I am technically 1600 USCF. I'm 2175 on Lichess Rapid, and I'm 1950 or something on Blitz. My agility guess is I'm somewhere between 1900 and 2000 rating. Arkatosen. Hope this helps. Anyway. Oh yes, and on that famous kilometer, I have a very nice score of 2495, which is a joke. So.
No, it's your future rating, Nikola. They just gave it to you in advance.
Sure, thank you. Okay. All right. So I would. All right. So what am I playing here? I do want to activate that bishop. The only way to activate that bishop is, I need to do something. So one candidate move is to take on c5. Another candidate move is to jump on f6.
Yeah.
With an idea that in that case, I'm actually having, if any openings of these files benefits me because black king is in danger. So that's one move. This is another move. I really don't want to force knight d6 because that pawn is kind of blocking the bishop and it's likely to fall. And I don't want to allow d4 and d3, which was close up the position for favor of black. I think exchanging either the knight or this bishop is beneficial for me because if I take the bishop, then all of a sudden I have this options alongside the a file. Hey, Vladimir 2712 1964. Thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. All right,
So how
so
would you trade it? You're talking about that minor piece trade. What exact line would allow you to do it?
well, I think both of these positions, and in which take knight f6 takes, and then this
Mm-hmm.
takes, I
I see.
have a monster here.
Uh-huh.
Or if black doesn't take, I take the bishop on d5, and then I have an entry position for the rook.
I see.
So I'm starting, very frankly, Anna, I'm liking this move. The question here is, do I play? At which point do I take on c5?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I take on c5, then maybe black can take with c5, and then maybe have some other options out, in other words, to prevent this from opening, and maybe move the rook back, and then there is an attack on the queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on the other hand, if I play knight f6, and I'm sorry if I am doing this, then black can take on d4, and then we exchange, and then he pushes on d3, and we are not really in a favorable position. All right, so we can't allow that. So
Can you play those moves out on the board? Because it makes a
yeah,
lot of sense, as you mentioned. Just
sure.
let's show it the lines that you
All right.
described.
All right, so option number one is to take on c5, right?
Yeah.
And then we take, for example,
Uh-huh.
with this,
Yes.
and then we do this, right? Uh, so that's one possibility. Okay.
What would you play here as black?
What I would play here as black is an interesting question. I don't really have any. I mean, can I play this? I probably can.
Hmm.
Yeah, which basically means that whole line is not good for me. Okay. And yeah, so I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
If I were to, so the other option is to play this immediately, which I'm starting to like more.
Mm-hmm.
The problem there is, if we play this and then we do this exchange, ooh, that's actually very ugly very quickly. That's actually a good line, because we have this and then this.
Nice.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
good.
very good.
Very good.
Okay, so this would be a collapse
Hopefully
of
there
the
will be a
black
time when I can
position.
calculate this quicker. All right.
No, that was really good. But let's go back to that position. Bishop takes d4. Sorry, I need to promote it so that it doesn't jump
Yeah,
back to
sorry,
the
my
other
bad.
line. I'm gonna promote this one. Knight f6 first, you said.
Yeah, and yeah.
So, um, if c takes d4, knight takes d5 at e6, that's a killer move.
Yeah.
Now, knowing that, let's think for black. What would be the better continuation here as black?
If I'm black, I can't allow that bishop to be taken, right?
Yes.
So I can't. You see, I was hoping to play this and then d3, but I don't have time for it. So what I need to do is play something that prevents rook from coming in on the a file, something along the lines of bishop b7.
So bishop b7 is one option because, as you said, it's important to keep the light squared bishop for black.
Yes.
But you're also saying that you would like to take on d4. So what would be the one way in which black can keep both the bishop and take the pawn?
Keep the bishop and take the pawn.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right, this is banana confuses me. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, so what do I do here? I don't want to exchange because I don't want to open up the bishop. I mean, I can, but I'm not sure it's the right move. So this, this, and this.
Let's see this position. How do you evaluate it? Let's take a look at understanding the position because it's still really messy.
Okay, so this is the position that we're at. I don't like the position, but this is the position that we get the pawn and hold the thing. All right, so what do we do here? We have this ugly bishop. We have this pawn that we cannot really defend. Okay. And we have this. We don't have this threat anymore, but okay, so I'm playing as black still, right?
Yeah, but here you are right. We need to find a move for white, and it would make a lot of sense to take that pawn on f7 until white can.
Yeah.
So bishop takes f7.
Okay. And now we have this pawn. Does it... So I have an option to play d3, which was the original plan, which may or may not make sense. We have an option to play on d6 and contest the bishop. We have an option to play queen b7 and kind of ask the question of this pawn and this bishop what to do. Well, here is my thought process. If we take, I mean, what's the line here? Let's see. We play queen b7, right? Then white can play something along, goes back to a5. We play this. Then we put this. We put the bishop on h1. We threaten mate. White plays f3. We push d3. And we have made an even bigger mess than it was.
True, very true.
Okay. Hey Alexar, I grew up in Belgrade. So yes, I'm Serbian of origin. I've been living in New York since 1993 though. Yeah, my apologies for the phone. It's let just ring it. It's just annoying. If it keeps ringing, I'll stand up and deal with it. I still like queen b7, to be honest with you.
Let's play that move on the board and see if it works.
Okay. All right. So queen b7. I'm pretty sure this is the best move because we want to put f3 at some point. We take this. And now what? I think I don't see that white has anything better than this. Okay, we can be obnoxious and play this, which will actually trap our own bishop.
Yes, correct.
Which is a little bit of a problem.
So if we don't play bishop h1, how do you see that position?
So we cannot play bishop h1. We need to defend this e6 pawn. We kind of need to go back to d5, and then white has this lovely move that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, black is a couple of pawns up, but even though the g pawn in front of white's king is missing, it is the black king that's really vulnerable.
Yeah,
so that's
these bishops are monsters.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So all right. So my problem is that in my calculation, I really thought we can push bishop h1, which was not a good move. All right. So let's go back here. Oh, again,
yeah. Right. Sorry, I'm gonna help you.
No, that's fine. So basically, bishop b. This is the position. So queen b.
Yeah. So if you don't like the line with bishop g2, queen b7, bishop takes g2, then I guess you also will not want to play queen b7, but choose something else.
Okay. So we had a candidate move as d3.
Mm-hmm.
We have a candidate move d6 to neutralize this bishop and finally connect the rooks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. White really doesn't have any immediate threat.
True.
The only... Okay, I mean, he can play queen g4 at some point, but that's not an immediate threat. The question here is... I really want to neutralize this bishop. So I'll probably just play this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, want me to make the move?
Yes, you can.
Okay, now what? All right, now flipping the board again.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm white, there is one obvious move, which is this.
All right.
And then I have no way of defending this pawn. Yes, exactly. Vasantik, that's exactly what the problem was. And I assumed that I could play bishop h1 and threaten mate, but I can't. I'm just trapping my own bishop. That's the real problem. Don't mess with me too. Thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. So what do I do here? I can take on g3. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Moruga. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you for the follow. I can play this, but then if I take here, then this becomes a protected passed pawn, and it's pretty ugly pretty quickly. How are we going to stop this pawn? Not to mention that all the threats associated with this are there. It's going to be very hard to win this pawn, and this pawn dies, I'm dead. Check on d3 is nice to have, but king h1, and there is really no threat associated with it. I mean, I can try to push to d2, but that pawn is not supported by pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So this f pawn is actually more dangerous than the d pawn.
Do you think so?
I assume so. Am I wrong?
Let's play out those moves because that's the main line to calculate here. I'm just curious,
Okay.
how will you see it once we
All right.
place those
So
moves on the board?
So this is black's move.
Yeah, defends the pawn on e6.
Okay. Okay. So, well, we can do something like this.
It's a possibility.
Okay. Yeah. The problem here is that I have this. Okay. So I miscalculated this, or misevaluated it, because I can play this, and then this is a threat, and I might be actually, white is losing here.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. So it's true that the f6 pawn seems to be a dangerous pass pawn, but you also have a pass pawn on the third rank, and it's gonna be a connected pass pawn if you get to play c3 after b4.
Yeah.
So very well spotted that even though the e6 pawn will be hanging, white doesn't really have the time to take it.
No. And that f pawn is all right. So okay, but I still like the line that starts with this, because this bishop really needs to be neutralized.
Mm-hmm.
Or, with or without queen g4, which we can insert or we cannot. So
I fully agree. Bishop d6 is a great move, and getting rid of that monster that was annoying our king. The f7 bishop, if we compare the bishops of white before bishop to d6, how useful each one is. This
yeah.
is a really annoying piece. Even if we still have the bishop on d5 protecting the a8 squared, that dark squared bishop of white is a very dangerous piece. It's just a matter of time in which white will find a way to get to our king.
Yeah.
But
No,
the bishop on f7 is just, it could be dangerous, but at the moment, the way it's placed together with the pawn on f6, it's not harmonious. White cannot push that pawn because of the
yeah,
bishop being on f7, so it's gonna be a couple of waste of tempi, loss of tempi to rearrange the pieces.
yeah, exactly. Thanks, Simple Swiddling. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, very good job there. Yes. So this is good for black, and then the question is, still, what's the right move here for white?
Okay, so we eliminated knight f6 and we eliminated taking on c5, correct?
Yes, yes, because those were okay for black.
Okay. Okay. So what is left?
You
Uh,
had the right idea, but I'm not gonna repeat it because that will lead to it very quickly. But you said why one of the lines you were thinking of, uh, what was the main principle why you chose that move and what you wanted to achieve with it.
yeah, I wanted to basically turn that g3 bishop into a monster, basically, and for
Yes, that was one of the principles. Very
yeah,
good.
and for that I need to get that e pawn out of the way.
Yes, very good.
And knight f6 doesn't work. We know knight d6 doesn't work because that's okay. Well, if you can't achieve what you want to achieve going forwards, try to do the same going backwards.
So the
Okay.
move being,
Oh, sorry, guys. Knight c3.
uh-huh. The threat is,
Well, the threat is to take on d5 and then push e6, and and then all assorted pleasantries.
what can black do in that position after knight c3?
Okay. Well, here is a very quick line. Knight c3. I'm just gonna play this out. Take on d4, take on d5, take on d5,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and e6. And I'm not saying that's the right moment, but then it's immediate question: what do you do with this? Then you can do some interesting stuff with getting to a8 to penetrate into the black's position. Yes, sure, Grass. It's anti-Moscow variation of the semi-Slav. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is also a slim possibility to take on c5 first and then play on knight c3. But I really don't want to worry about this line, and I don't think this c pawn makes that much of a difference.
True.
All right,
So your move is knight c3
so
in
I'm
that
gonna move
case.
this.
Yeah. And you are talking about the variation where black accepts the pawn on d4.
Correct. And then we do something along these lines.
Uh-huh.
And then we can take, I mean, we can even do something along the lines of this. Or we
Yes,
can,
white can take on f7 immediately with the bishop,
or it can, or you can even, this pushing is maybe giving a whole pawn mass in the center.
mm-hmm.
So, and you also have this very nasty little thing here. Is black immediately busted? Can I make a couple of moves on it? Just admit.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm curious which ones would be your
All right.
choice.
So this obviously I don't want to do this because this is curtains.
Yeah.
So black needs to play this and then takes, and takes, and I wouldn't want to play this position as black.
Yes, correct. So the one hope of black for survival is after rook a8 check knight b8, which is sad enough.
We're talking about this.
Yeah, it's really sad, but has to be played.
That's the best move in the position.
It is.
Oh my
Goes to
good.
show how well black is doing here.
Jesus, all right. So this, I guess this is the line.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
Okay, and now what?
Um, yeah, good question. Then now what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put the rook on e1, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, rook a8, very good. Immediate question. But bishop takes f7, as you said, also this is a simple move, but it's not just about capturing the pawn. But what you said, next move you can push e6. This will be a monster, and you also have a pass pawn on top of it. So whether rook a8 check, bishop takes f7, this position for black is terrible. The pair of bishops is dominating here.
All right. In other words, the most lesson to learn from this is the most aggressive move is moving the knight backwards. That's actually wonderful.
Yeah. Yes, because in that position, it's interesting that I think it's the nature of chess that we tend to focus on moves going forward, and
Yeah.
those are the moves that seem to be making progress. But here, the strongest move in the position is the knight retreat to c3, and if black wants to keep the bishop on the board, so that's another line that Gelfand mentions. Let me go back to his annotation. After knight c3, he was calculating also bishop back to b7. What would be
Okay.
your move here, Nikola?
Okay. All right. Interesting question. Well, I can just take on f7 and collect my renting pawns.
Could be.
So that's an easy option. I really don't want to take on c5 because that activates all the pieces. I can be really annoying, and I can push d5, which may actually be the best move. Oh wow, yeah, that is the best move.
I like how once you said the move, you're like, this is the one. So
Yeah,
tell us how you noticed that that's the move, because it is.
because it eliminates one threat, which is opening the d file, and it creates multiple threats. The threat is if black if you push to d6, you can forget, and it also it's just you can do quite a lot of things. You can take on e6. It's the most active move, and it's gonna put knight. It almost forces black to make some rather unsavory choices. Savory choice number one is to take and then put the knight here. There is also threat of e6. The queen is attacked. If you get rid of this bishop, everything we saw before, it keeps all the whites' aggressive intentions open, and blocks whatever activity black had, and black's activity was associated with taking on d4 and pushing d3, if I remember correctly. And that
Yes,
basically shuts down black's activity and opens up activity for white. What's amazing in this position is that the motive of getting rid of this pawn to open up this bishop has been there for for quite a lot of moves.
Yeah, And that's why you were also focusing on knight f6 because that had the same purpose. So the thinking was really good behind the knight f6 variations too. But in those lines, you had time as black to take on f6 and play bishop d6. That's why it was okay for black. But other than that, yes, there's so
Yeah.
many lines focused on this g3 bishop becoming a main, the protagonist of the attack. So d5, would you like to play that move out on the board, even if
Yeah.
we don't have to go into a concrete line, but just
Yeah.
to show how powerful it is?
So what does black play here? The thing here is if he plays this, there is an immediate threat here. There is an immediate threat there. Whereas actually this queen, I can't play this for the simple reason that I can't take on d6 because can I? Actually, I can. Queen c6 loses to bishop f3. So yeah, I can. I still can. And then if there is an exchange, I really don't want to be black in this position. There is a threat
Yeah.
of this. There's a threat of this, where the knight has nowhere to go,
Mm-hmm.
and this pawn can be taken at any given time. If knight leaves, there is this very nice check on g4. It's yeah. Incidentally, this is a type of position I blunder a queen against Alexandra, so I shouldn't be saying anything. But there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that attacking game was really good until that point, but it was a really well played, well executed attack.
Yeah. Anyway. All right.
d5 really strong, and this is curtains. Basically, that's why Gelfand didn't play c5. So he calculated all this that we analyzed.
Yeah.
He saw it, and therefore he didn't play c5.
All right. So what position are we? He didn't. So basically, this is the position he didn't play c5. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't play c5 for all this with a takes b5, knight
Oh
takes
Jesus.
d5,
Okay.
and then knight c3. Everything we calculated, um, it's what he has seen and more. I'm guessing he has seen way more than what he put in the annotation, of course. But the main points were the ones we have already analyzed together. So we have covered all the reasons why Gelfand didn't play c5, but he played something else. So let's try to figure out what's the something else.
Okay. Yeah, c5 looked really promising in this position.
Mm-hmm. It looked promising, and he spent a lot of time. He actually, as I said earlier, he writes in his annotation, I seriously considered c5, but after, and then he goes into the lines. So that was one of the main candidate moves of Gelfand.
Okay. All right. So what do we do here if we
Yeah.
can't play c5?
We also already talked about rook h7, as we mentioned, too passive for the
Yes.
liking of Gelfand. Karyakin tried it, but was not very successful defending
Well,
that position.
we still have that knight f4 option.
Whoa! It came back into the theme. You said that move
Yeah.
in the very
Why?
first part of the session.
Yeah, I did because I'm get. Let me just show what I was thinking. I can take takes. Then I'm actually threatening to take on e5.
Sorry, I think I moved the board. Bishop h5.
Yeah,
Here.
that's the move. All right. So that asked the question of this bishop. It really threatens to take on e5. It defends the e6 pawn, which is actually important.
Mm-hmm.
It's yes, Vasantvik. It's tell
That's
me
the
about
purpose of the session.
tell me about it. Yeah, as I said, it's Anna torturing Nikola session. Okay, so you know what? I'm just playing knight f4. I don't see
Very
anything
good.
else, and I'm pretty sure Gelfand played it because I can't imagine
Yes.
him playing rook h7. So
Very good. Knight f4 is the move. Strongest move. Played by Gaffand, played by
Okay,
Nikola. Well done.
thank
And
you.
not caring about the F7 pawn, because as you said, the knight from F4 does protect the E6 pawn. And in all the other lines, this bishop on G3 was such a powerful piece that we actually don't mind if white has to take the knight on F4. That will open up the G5 for us and get rid of the bishop. So really good job. Mamedyarov took on F7.
Okay.
So now it's our turn again. What to do?
Okay, so he played at bishop f7. All right, so there are a couple of moves here. Um, I mean, we can obviously take on e5,
Mm-hmm.
and then this pawn is actually defended. But let me see for a second. Takes. I'm just gonna analyze this real quick. So basically, the line is this: takes, takes, and bishop takes, and we have a revival of the monster.
Yes. How forcing is that line though? Because it's very good that you're calculating that line, but let's see which parts are forced completely and which ones are
All
optional.
right. So if I take, if this takes, I don't need. I can just move my king. I don't necessarily need to take the bishop on e6,
Really
which
good.
is probably the way to go because I
Hmm.
have a nice jump on d3. I don't see how this particular pin can be utilized. Okay. We don't. I really don't want to not take a pawn on e5, especially since this is gonna fall and I can't defend it really.
Yeah,
So I
very
think
good.
this is almost forced, right?
Nicely done. Yes, very good. The conclusion you've taken.
All right. This bishop is, for intents and purposes, trapped, right?
Yes,
Has
true.
nowhere. Has nowhere to go.
True. Yeah.
Um, so the question here is: do I take on f4 or do I take on e6? Well, if I take on f4, takes. I'm gonna end up being up a pawn, but this knight is gonna end up on d3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if I'm white again, I really don't want these two knights to reinforce each other on d3.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm probably playing this.
All right.
And if I take here, then that bishop can go back. I have a weak pawn, and this bishop is still a freaking monster. So I am probably taking here, and this is a check. And I'm collecting this pawn, and I'm sitting pretty.
Yep. The the conclusion, the evaluation, all perfect. Yes,
Okay.
very good. Very good job.
Okay.
The game is this line, but with white not taking on f4, but it's gonna be similar in a sense that black's position is better. So let's see how Shahriar is trying to get something as compensation. But really good. You already mentioned, Nikola, that after bishop takes e6, you don't have to take this. You can just move the king out,
Yeah.
and the problems are the same. Knight hopping onto d3, pawn on d4 hanging.
Yeah.
This position is really nice for black.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how a position that was really passive for black, yeah, black has a pawn up in
Yep.
this line, but it's a passive position most of the time, and it just suddenly turned into black finishing most of his development and taking the initiative, because now it's black who has actual active threats. So it just very easily slips out of white's
Yep.
hands if they are not playing the most precise moves.
Okay. So okay. I presume this. What they end up playing. The position is. Is this the position they ended up playing?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mamedyarov tried to hold on to the pawn. We'll see if it's successful or not. But yeah, it's there's still issues here. So let's see how would you react to knight e2.
Okay. Interesting question. Obviously, the bishop is. I cannot allow him to take with a knight on f4 because that knight is going to be very humbly pacified.
Mhm.
Can I play c5? But he takes with a pawn, and he takes with a knight, and he's defending the bishop. So I can't play that. All right, let me think for a second.
Sure.
It's like, okay, who is taking what and where and how.
Exactly. Take your time.
Okay. All right. So what I can do here is, I can obviously I can go pawn grabbing and just do this. The problem is that's very ugly very quickly. Right. Takes rook d1, and it's like, what do you? I mean, no. I mean, the knight on e4 is, but it's not the position I would like to play. Or I can take because okay. I mean, this bishop e5 is gonna kill me here. All right, so it would be nice if I can play knight d3 and keep the pin, but I don't. I can't. Meaning, if I could play this knight over, but that breaks the
Yeah.
pin. I can do this. I can do this, right? And that kind of defends everything. So that's one candidate move.
True.
This would be nice, but the problem is that it takes with a knight, and then actually he can take with a knight. He can take with a knight because I can take with a bishop, and this bishop is hanging. All right, so option number one is this. Option number two is this. And I don't like the option of taking on e2. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't want to have this in a blitz game.
I can understand that, but your thinking is perfect. So everything you've described so far makes a lot of sense. And now let's see which are the moves that you would stay with. So after having analyzed some of these lines, do you have a decision on what would be your way to continue?
Well, if I play c5, I have a danger that he's gonna take on f4, and this knight is pickled.
Yeah.
So, however much I don't like to make that move, this knight needs some reinforcement. So the question here is, and I need a reinforcement. So this looks like the best move in the position.
Very good thinking.
Yeah.
Fortifying the knight on f4. Knight ed3 is one of the strongest moves, and Chad, don't laugh at me because it's top choice of the engine together with the move that Gaffan played. So there are only two moves that keep Black's advantage here. I mean,
And it's the other
I
knight on
think you
d3, I
should.
presume.
No, knight ed3, as you said. That's one of the best moves. So
Okay.
knight
What is the other?
ed3.
Oh, the other move is not the other knight. It's something else. Okay.
Oh, something else. Sorry if I
No, no,
didn't
no.
sound clear about that. Bishop g7 is the move Gelfand played. This is advantage for black, and this is advantage for black. Everything else, white has
Is
quite
bad.
some compensation. Yeah, it may not be. It may not be. Um, like we are not getting into a lost position, of course. But if white has enough compensation in the other lines, that's already troublesome because we'll have to be on the defensive side. So only knight ed3 and bishop g7 are the two moves that
Okay.
that keep the advantage of black, and both make a lot of sense. As you said, you found knight ed3 just to fortify the knight on f4. Later, the pawn on d4 will be a target, and this one, Gelfand simply says, I don't mind if I lose that pawn because now I have fortified my knight. I'm connecting my rooks, and this d4 pawn will fall if the knight will be traded on f4, and that's what happened in the game. Let me show you the next
Okay.
moves. Knight takes f4, g takes f4. I'm just trying to find the in the annotation if he said anything about it, but no, it's simply this, 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 and this. And he just added that he also considered queen takes d4, and he says, but I didn't have much time and decided it was worthwhile to keep the queens on the board since white's pieces are poorly coordinated, and with queens on the board, he will have more trouble keeping them together. I thought that was really insightful because we tend to trade queens when we have time pressure and we just want the position to be easier to handle. But here, he's just saying white's pieces are not coordinating well. I want him to suffer as much as possible. And it is true. Rook takes d4 is stronger than queen takes.
Okay.
So objectively better.
We have a question in chat as to
Yeah,
when this game was played. So,
sure. In 2008, this is from the Moscow Town Memorial in Moscow in
okay.
2008.
Okay.
Classical game because there's also a blitz in the Town Memorial, but this was a classical game.
All right. Yeah, you want needs that. Yeah, this is full of minefields actually.
It
Knight
is.
c3 would be a very difficult move to find in
Yeah.
any time control, I have to admit.
And
But
that's a line he calculated because he was looking at
yeah,
c5 and knight c3. That moment comes like 4 moves later.
okay.
Very good. a5 was played by Shahriar. Gelfand considers it a mistake, uh, but I don't think it was easy to handle the position. Let's see how would you continue here. There aren't too many moves for black.
Okay, I can
Uh,
just.
and Gelfand just adds, sorry, because I've just realized that
I'm
he
sorry.
also explained why he considers it a mistake. So obviously this queen will have to move at some point. He was analyzing mainly queen e2 for white, and saying that keeping the option of opening up the a file made sense. So just not closing it down with a5. Um, so a5 was played by Shahriar
Okay,
and Nikola
well,
to react.
okay, well, well, there is an, this rook is obviously, I don't think queen a7 makes much sense. So obvious candidate move is rook d8, and this pawn is probably going to prove weak at some point.
Yeah, queen d8, you still defend a rook on d4,
I'm
and the
still
white queen will have to go.
yeah. Another is to just you know take, and then one takes, take one of the rooks with a check, and that's also
Hmm.
an option,
Yeah.
which actually doesn't even look that bad.
Hmm.
um, because you can then play rook e8, and you I mean, this pawn on b6 is weakness, but it's mildly annoying.
Hmm.
um, okay. And if there are any other moves, I don't see them.
No, there are very few, and you already mentioned them. Queen d8, Simple and
Yeah,
strong. As you said, the queen on a7 is not doing anything. Queen d8, doubling on the d file, then this
yeah,
queen can appear on the king side too, or on the e
yeah.
file. So way more potential bringing back it to d8. Very good job. Queen e2 was played by Mamedyarov, and it's your turn, Nikola.
Thank you, David of 9 million for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. We're reaching the 2000 follow mark. I'm looking forward to it.
That's amazing. I remember when you were just close to 1,000 a few sessions ago. So really good progress there.
Well, Alexandra was kind enough to basically entice all her whole chat to come and follow. That was very nice. So,
I heard that, and that you
yeah,
are very close to becoming partner too.
correct. That's all right. So, what do we do here? Um, Yeah, this is the type of position where I tend to mess up. This is a
Mm.
very significant advantage for black.
Hmm. It
Uh,
is
it
correct.
just needs to be proven.
And it's interesting because we don't have material advantage anymore. This line is all about black having an extra pawn for quite a big portion of the game, but now we have given up on that extra pawn. It's equal material, but the activity of black's pieces has improved significantly.
And Pink Apple Mommy, this is a wholesome chat, so kids are welcome. So no worries there. Yeah, stream, correct. Stream is what's is G rated. Okay, well, when all is said and done, I probably don't want to keep this knight pinned forever. So this is a nice move to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these white light pieces are actually kind of funky in a sense that they're not. They're kind of bunched together. They're not defended. They don't have outposts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Thank you for the follow, Pink Apple Mommy. All right, so I'm probably playing King A8, and then I have all these funky threats like Knight on D3, like C5. I don't see a better move.
Really good. Gelfand played a different move, Rook E8, and said simpler was King A8, but I
Okay,
completely missed White's reply. So he said he should have played King A8. So
good.
really good job there, Nicola.
Okay, thank you. That's nice to hear.
And the
All right.
move he didn't count on his Rook A D1. He says in his annotation he only counted on Bishop F5 where he wanted to play Rook F8. Problematic piece placement for White. And after G4 here, just to save the bishops, this is where he was gonna move the king out of the pin.
Oh, the pin. Gotcha.
So
We have
now
a
he
yeah.
like there are concrete threats with the knight jumps and everything.
I simply saying I looked at Queen H4, but there is this G3 recourse that White has, and then that Queen needs to go somewhere. It's
Which
you
position?
know um,
Uh,
Queen H4 and Bishop E5, Bishop E5. I think what actually yeah
oh, instead of queen
if you
e2.
play in yeah
Yeah,
instead
queen h5 is
I
well
think it's for the white
not
Queen
here.
H4 for white for black.
Oh, all right. So queen e2, and instead of rook e8 and king a8, now queen h4.
Uh,
It's possible to play it, but the problem in most lines is this pin knight. So I think Nikola found the most important issue. Free that knight, get the king out of the pin, and then everything else. Queen h4 is still possible. Rook e8 is still possible. Knight d3 becomes possible. So it just there's so many threats after the knight is not pinned, that it makes sense to go king a8
All right.
first.
And just to answer a question in chat for Pick Apple Mommy, I'm not familiar with the chess tutorial on Xbox,
Huh.
but I have a couple of recommendations. Chess.com has a pretty good tutorials for entry level players. I think that might be a useful thing to do. Lichess also has the same. I think for somebody who is just learning, I think just a free account with chess.com with some basic things. That's for the record what I used for with my wife to so she can learn how the pieces to move, and
Oh.
it was a very good way to start. So that would be my recommendation, and you know, so that's where I would start. There are also lots of very good videos on YouTube. If you just go to put in, learning chess, it would be there. And also, Anna has beginner classes every Thursday, right? Is it Thursdays?
It's not a weekly stream, but I do from time to time have beginners chess lessons on stream, because so many viewers in my community come from the gaming environment. Since I have variety streams too, I play board games and computer games as well, not only chess. And those viewers who got to know me through the gaming community now want to learn chess because they get really excited about it. So
Yes.
I teach them. But it's not a weekly show. I teach them when I can, and also when we have sub battles with Alex. So that's on Sundays. We try to explain the games on
Yeah.
a simpler level.
Hedgehog 1963, who is a mod in this channel and a dear friend of mine, has actually an excellent recommendation. ChessKid is a site specifically designed for this. And 9 years, I started playing chess when I was 5, and then I have like a 35-year hiatus, which is why I'm doing this with Anna. But
Yeah,
9 years is actually not too young to start. It's
yeah,
actually a pretty good age. So
yeah. I
yeah,
also really like the cartoons on Chess Kid.
yeah,
I was recommending that also to my adult viewers because it's really such a
yeah,
quirky, fun way of learning how the pieces move. They made cartoons out of the chess pieces,
yeah.
so that's on Chess Kid.
All right. So I hope this helps, Pink Apple Mommy. Uh,
Yeah. I'll
s-
show you the next moves since we don't have too much time left. So I'm
oh
gonna
yes.
add here what was played: Rook E8, Rook A D1, and now it's similar to what you wanted, but got a little bit messier. So this is a move later, King A8,
Okay.
and simply Gaffand added that it became a lot messier because had he not played King A8, he was calculating Rook takes E6, and the line he mentions. Let me show you. Rook
Okay.
takes D4, Queen takes D4, Rook D1. So currently, Black is a piece up, but the queen, even though it's centralized, has only one square, which is on a7. This is how problematic things can become if this is their only square.
Ouch.
Rook d8 check, king c7, and here an incredible move. Just queen g4, because the knight is still pinned, and white does not care that this rook is hanging because this one is also in the air. And even though we have traded a lot of material, it's only a queen and two minor pieces left for white, extra piece for black. But because the queen is just standing there on a7 without a job, not being able to contribute much to the defense, this position is lost for black.
Okay, yeah, that queen on a7 decided that she would like to become a widow, to be blunt. Okay,
There are just way too many threats. The knight on e5 is hanging. Queen g8 is a threat.
yeah,
Knight
there
jumps as
is,
well.
yeah,
So this is
and
curtains.
that's curtains, and the bishop on b7 is not doing anything.
Yeah. On top of that, any attempt with bringing the queen back and threatening back rank mate, because white also can have issues, but we are picking up the bishop with a check. So that's
Yes, yeah,
that's where
and
the
not to
problem
mention
is.
that where exactly is that king gonna go?
Yeah. Good point.
Because wherever it goes, it's either gonna, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
the
So this is why Gaffin said that he completely missed Shahriar's response to rook e8, and it was really unpleasant because he started calculating rook takes e6 and it wasn't working. I think psychologically these are difficult moments on any level.
yeah.
You miss a move, and then you're like, oh, have I ruined it? Is there still advantage? Because it's unpleasant. It's really unpleasant psychologically to receive a move that you realize it's strong, and you didn't count on it. You didn't see it coming.
I'm very familiar with those situations, sadly, as
Me
everybody
too.
is.
Me too. Good thing is most of the times, it, even if they are good moves, the psychological effect makes them more powerful. So
Yeah.
once you can calm yourself down and objectively look at the position, oftentimes it turns out that they might be good moves but not incredibly strong moves. So king a8, and black is still doing very well here. King
Okay.
a8 was played, bishop e3, and now Gelfand played. Gelfand traded on d1, and then played knight d3. But he mentions in the annotations that actually it would have been really strong, in his opinion, to just give up the exchange, because he says that after bishop takes,
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
these are monster pieces. White is struggling on the e file, and it's not nothing concrete. We are not winning anything immediately, but now look at these: the pair of bishops of black,
yeah.
the knight
The,
on d3, and it's just a disaster position to defend.
yeah. And the funny thing is, he can't even give the exchange back effectively
Yeah,
because he doesn't have the time.
true. This would be not the same kind of giving back the exchange.
Okay. Yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Very good. Yeah, so knight d3 was really strong. He took on d1 and then played knight d3, which is still strong, of course, but as he said, was was not needed to take on d1 first.
Uh,
And after bishop f5, um, he played queen d5, and the position of white is collapsing. I think the game, I wonder how many moves they made in total. It finished in 37 moves, and we are on move 26. So still, Mamadjarov managed to make 10 more moves, which I think is quite a miracle from a
yeah,
position where the bishop on f5 is hanging, the knight on e4 is in trouble. This is a monster. This is a monster. This is a monster. This is a monster. We will
yeah.
just
And a
need to find a
bishop
way
and
to open up this long
yeah,
diagonal, and then
finally.
it's just curtains.
Yeah, and
Um,
thank you, Chess Raven, for the follow, and Poison26 for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys. Okay, so
Here, basically, just Gaffin says, I wanted to add it as the final note. He says, after queen d5, now black's pieces are totally dominating on the board, and the rest is simple. So that's what Gaffin said about this, and converting it into a full point is simple. I'll send you, of course, the full game,
sure.
but the rest of it is not that difficult. I can just show that immediately what happened. In order to not lose a piece, white has to go queen g4, and then after bishop takes b2, it's now even a pawn up. The c4 pawn is a pass pawn. I think we can see that this is
Yes, and
really bad
yeah,
for
yeah,
white.
it's bad, and
And
on
we
top
still
of
haven't played c5.
yeah, and the queen, white queen, has to defend two pieces, which is, the poor queen is already overloaded.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were some of the key moments in this game for you? Some of the most instructive moments, in your opinion, Nikola?
Okay. All right. So I have to say this was actually the most of all the games you and I have looked together on streams. Am I in the right line? This is the actual game.
Yeah, should be the promoted one this time, I hope.
All right. Sorry, guys. So let me look here. I don't really. I'm not familiar with this opening. And you know, G5 is, I presume, theory. It's just I'm not familiar with it. Thank you, my beige. Thank you for the follow. You
Yeah,
know,
this is all theory. Even the
B5 is
positions in,
theory. Yeah.
yeah. So this was the theoretical line until quite a late stage of the game. Although since the game is from 2008, and Gaffon was spending time, like he was considering whether to play that Rook H7 move or C5, and a lot of those lines that it happened in other games, but he was still just choosing which one to go for, which move to play.
Interesting. What's very interesting is, a couple of decisions that Black made. First key moment for me was this. Castling long in this position. Very interesting was the whole, why b4 doesn't work because of a5 that persisted for quite a lot of moves. But, the key moment, the one that I'm not going to forget, is that this knight c3, where is that?
Oh,
With
yeah.
that actually, it's coming. Well, it's not coming. It was not in the main line of the game.
Let me help you. So that was in the
Thank
line. We go back a few moves.
Yes, Chicken Morales, I agree with you.
Oh.
That was the most fascinating. Where we have the pawn was in e5 and we were trying to open this up.
Yes. So here we were looking at c5.
Yes.
And that's when a takes. So this is something that Gaffon calculated. And why he did not play c5 is a takes, knight takes. And if bishop takes, knight f6 was something we spent a lot of time on, but knight c3 was the key move.
The idea here was, okay, we looked into all sorts of moves. We looked into even, and I'm actually going to read. So in other words, this is the position we actually spent a lot of time in. And it's absolutely fascinating that you have knight f6, you have knight d6, you have take on c5, but the best move is actually the one that was, that's knight c3. It's just, that's extremely instructive.
It is.
Yeah.
I also like this moment.
That's
the most in the game.
Yeah, that's my favorite moment in this game. So
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad you found it insightful. And also, thanks for the tip on keeping the Kasparov game for a future stream. I'm not gonna torture you with another anti-Moscow next stream, but possibly in the future.
No, that's perfectly fine. Being tortured with a different stream is definitely there, and it's very, very good to do that. And I really enjoyed our session today. This was slightly less tactical than we normally do, which was also interesting. But the tactics were right below the surface. The whole game was weird, and the fact that King A8 was a move that won the game for this was very interesting, and how a weak piece like this bishop on g3 can become a monster very quickly, and how the whole game turns around. That single bishop becoming a monster was amazing.
I'm glad you found it really interesting and insightful. And yes, I think you described it very well, that it wasn't that much of tactical variations, but it was always there to check those lines, see if the king is doing fine. Because in these positions, the black king gets into trouble so easily. And in a lot of lines, you were just looking at how can I get rid of the white pawn on e5. And once you open up the diagonal, it was really deep trouble. Second pawn sacrifice, third pawn sacrifice, doesn't matter. If the position opens up, the black king is in trouble.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for another amazing session. I'm already scared what's gonna happen on next Wednesday. I'm sorry we had to cancel last week, but I think
no
this
worries,
was
it's
there.
totally understandable, and you couldn't see that coming, or no one could. But I hope your surgery will go well tomorrow.
That's fine. I'm prepared for it, and it's there. And we thank you again. Looking forward. Yes, Sepper. That's exactly my head hurts too. And thank you guys. I'm gonna send you to a quick raid to my dear friend Ben Feingold, to whom we own a raid. And let's see, or oh, Ben is actually doing something different. I'm gonna actually send you to another dear friend of mine who is a chess streamer. He streams on Lichess, and he has a big 130-pound American bulldog that he talks to, and he plays lots of interesting thing. I found his streams to be very educational. His name is Squirrely. So give him a shout. I will join you very shortly, and I'm sending you there. Thank you again. And my next stream will be a match against WFM Lile Koridze. Lile Koridze is one of the strongest ladies on Twitch. She is very tactical, which I find something I can improve on. So let's see if she can adopt me. That is this Sunday at noon. So anyway, guys, say hello to Squirrely for me. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining.
All right, so let's see. All right, the raid is on its way.
I haven't seen the dog now. I'm really curious. Checking the stream, but I don't see Squirrely. Really? Sure.